Hello, people, in this week six. For this week discussion, I'll be focused on a topic on American history too related. Um, in history, there's a lot of events that occurred that people basically knew who was around, knew what was at when it happened. So, like, you can speak about the when Pearl Harbor occurred on December 7, 1941. You can talk about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. You can talk about Martin Luther King assassination, etc., etc. But unfortunately for me, being 7 years old, I wasn't around when the events occurred. But I can talk about an event that I was around when it occurred, and it was definitely a American tragedy. I can definitely remember it like it yesterday. And that topic I'll talk about today is September 11. Um, I remember when 9/11 occurred back on September 11, 2001. I was in the fourth grade at Haywood Elementary School. I remember my teacher turned on the TV, like to show us what was current on, and I was able to see when the planes attacked the Twin Towers in New York City, right on TV, like was breaking news, and I just remember that whole day was just kind of fear and paranoia going on. I can remember going home, my mom coming home from work, God rest her soul, and she was saying a lot of things that who had to watch the news all day. It was really crazy, dark. It was really a dark day in American history, but the articles that I will talk about, three newspaper articles that I'll talk about. The first one, the Washington Post, which is called September 11, 2001. The second newspaper called from the New York Times called "Awaiting the Aftershock." Washington and the nation plaguing to fight with the enemy had to identify and push. Um, the third article is from the United Kingdom newspaper, The Guardian. Um, Basically, the first article, the Washington Post article, which was published on September 12, 2001, a day after the attacks occurred, basically explain the attacks on basically how, making a comparison on how the September 11 attacks was like similar to what happened when Pearl Harbor occurred on December 1941. Of course, we have to know that 2001 was the 60th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attacks when Japan attacked the United States ship, and of course that would lead to Franklin Roosevelt giving United States fall from World War II. But the newspaper article was explaining about how the what occurred September 11 and how Americans felt about that tragedy was similar to what happened in Pearl Harbor, and basically it was just basically it was just explaining that it was probably one of the worst attacks on USO since Pearl Harbor. So it was basically just focusing on a lot of comparisons, talking about the attacks and how Pearl Harbor was. Um, the newspaper article also say that the only difference between 9/11 and Pearl Harbor was that the United States knew who attacked Pearl Harbor, who attacked during Pearl Harbor, which was the Japanese. But at the time, the United States really didn't know who attacked the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and until later on was to find out, of course, it was Osama bin Laden, Al Qaeda. But the newspaper article don't mention Osama bin Laden. It just focused more on just about who attacked. It was like in question who attacked the Twin Towers. But basically, also, of course, basically focused on more about 9/11 in comparison to Pearl Harbor. Now, the second article, the New York Times, which was published also on September 12, 2001, the day after the attacks, mentioned about the comparisons of September 11 to the attacks on Pearl Harbor. The newspaper article also mentioned on how the way Bush, he was a president at the time, and how he would respond to attack during the attack in the United States. Also, the newspaper article mentioned about that people that were most likely responsible for the attack was Osama bin Laden, which he was responsible for the attack. And the thing that interests about Osama bin Laden is that United States supported him in Afghanistan in the 1980s during the war with the Soviet Union. And we all know that United States helped train Osama bin Laden in Al Qaeda and them during that time. So they knew that he was responsible, especially being a wanted man for his attack against East Africa back in '98. So yeah, the news article basically just focused on more about comparing attacks, 9/11 attack to Pearl Harbor. Also mentioned Osama bin Laden being responsible. So the New York Times information was more than the one Washington Post. Now the last article, The Guardian, which was called "Attack on America: Day of Terror," which was also published on September 12, 2001, just talk about just all the sequence of events that occurred during that day, like when the towers were attacked by the two planes, when a plane hit the Pentagon, and also when a plane hit Pennsylvania, and basically they did mention Osama bin Laden also being a possible suspect as well. So basically, the two newspaper articles, the New York Times and the Guardian, gives more in-depth information than the Washington Post. One thing I want to say about September 11, it was just indeed a really tragic day. Thousands of Americans, people lost their lives, their family, and it just forever changed ways of America. Especially, this will lead up to the invasion of Iraq War, invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq War. It's just like I could say, but I have to, unfortunately, I don't have too much time about the September 11th, but it's one of the most catastrophic events. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Enjoy your night and day.